Hi, everyone. I'm here with John Davidson, who I'm very excited to talk to. John runs Broken Tooth TV, which is a Substack and media project, right?
Yeah, you
And
could say
yeah,
that.
yeah, and also made the really great documentary Epidemic of Fraud about suppression of medicine, such as hydroxychloroquine during the COVID years. And John and I connected over the summer via some email, something, and I'm really interested to hear this question, which is how you went from kind of the mainstream media production life to where you are now.
Um, it's it's a weird story, I guess. I had started out at CNN after college, and worked there in the late '90s, and then I went over to entertainment with the Turner Studios, TNT people, and I learned how to do marketing, ad sales, that kind of stuff. And then I said, "Hey, I'm going to move out to California," and moved out west and started a company and just kind of peddled my wares. We did movie trailers, commercials, promos for networks, TV shows. I do shoots, and we'd get to direct movie stars when their movies would come out, and do these kind of like junket interviews. And sometimes we take a junket interview and make it like something really special. It and it was really good life. And then I guess I every once in a while I would devote myself to some advocacy work. Maybe it was helping kids with a muscular dystrophy or cystic fibrosis, or you know anything that sort of caught my fancy, but always under the umbrella of doing my production work through my company. And then in 2020, I don't know, it was very strange. Like almost as soon as the new year started, I started to get this real panic, this concern about this thing in China. And initially, I was very much about, wear your masks. I knew there was going to be a mask shortage. So I'd tell people, I was like, just go get it, some N95s or whatever. And at the time, I didn't really understand what was going on. I just had like a compelling feeling in my heart to do this. And I told the networks in February that there were going to be lockdowns, and then the lockdowns happened, and they laughed at me at first, but then they weren't laughing by March. And for a while, I tried to help get more attention to the plight of medical doctors on the front lines. I was really also, in part, I was trying to help them, but on the other side of it, I was really trying to get evidence. I was seeking answers. I wanted to see, is what we're being told on the social media, is that real?
Right.
And one of the doctors in New York that sent me footage, he shared with me footage of nurses dancing in empty hospitals,
Yeah.
and they were his nurses at his hospital
Oh,
in
so
New York.
you had that verified. That
And I
was not.
remember when I was trying to make like a compelling, kumbaya, let's all come together kind of ad, and instead I'm getting these nurses laughing and dancing and giggling and stuff like that, and it just did not correspond. I was like, well, I'm not going to use that. That's not the right tone at all. And I ultimately did pull off in like 6 days this really cool public relations, um, public service announcement type ad for one of the networks. And at the time, the network had told me they would run it, and then the network backed out when I made it. And it was a really good ad. I mean, I was very concerned about the politicization of science that was going down at the time. And you know, I was trying to get around that. But it appeared that the network did not want that message. It's strange to me.
So when was that? When was that ad not played?
Early May
Okay, so
2020.
yeah. So the shutdown happened around March 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay. And you were trying to depoliticize it.
Yeah, I was like, hey, can't we all
Yeah.
just win just this once? Like that was a very Trump statement to say, win. And I was really actually trying to avoid the political stuff about it altogether. But so when the network wouldn't run it, the doctors didn't want to release it until they knew the network would run it, because they wanted to have their image on a network logo branded thing. And that's when I started to realize, I was like, hey, a lot of these doctors they want reality shows.
Oh.
Hmm. I mean, it wasn't all of them, but I just was a little, I just a little shocked by that. And I couldn't force the network to run it. It was their call. They have their own rights. So I just started stepping back and thinking to myself, what in the heck is going on? And then by the end of that month, the Surgisphere Sapondasai study on hydroxychloroquine came out that said, oh, it's killing people, it's deadly, and the news ran with it. And, every anchor on
Right.
CNN and MSNBC breathlessly ran to the camera and told everyone how tonic water was now somehow deadly, which is basically the gist of what the study said. And, and then the study was sort of quietly retracted
Mm-hmm.
and barely got any coverage
Mm-hmm.
because all of the data was fabricated. And that was a real shock to me, that the authors behind that study weren't dragged out into the street, because
Right.
that study ultimately killed like 80 plus clinical trials that were underway to verify the efficacy of what turns out to be one of the oldest class of medications in history to use to treat any infectious disease. Hydroxychloroquine was based off of chloroquine, which is based off of quinine, which was based off of Peruvian bark
Right.
from the cinchona tree, which was, again, the earliest known chemical compound to treat any infectious disease. So that kind of rattled my cage a little bit, because if people were going to lie about that, suddenly everything science was telling us was off the table. Now, exactly as that was going down, you had the George Floyd situation unfolding in Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
which we're learning a lot about Minnesota now, and it's not very flattering to that state.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when I started digging into Minnesota more, even then, it was one of the biggest hotspots for FBI investigations in the world, or in the country.
Really?
Yeah, they have a tremendous amount of fraud up there.
Wow.
I was not aware of that either, and so I was kind of shocked to see. I was like, okay, there's something wrong up in this place.
Yeah.
So that kind of triggered me to start helping doctors that were promoting hydroxychloroquine. Not because I felt it was necessarily a silver bullet, but because if something was going to be suppressed, and we've now established that the people doing the suppression are in fact lying, you can't trust anything they say. So now anything they attack is probably good.
Right.
You just follow the logical thread. Someone's lying, and it ultimately, like, I went from thinking of Fauci as like a hero, or a good guy, to really not liking him at all for what he was doing.
So that's an interesting point. Like, how long did it take you, and what were the very specific things that you noticed about what Fauci was doing?
I started investigating how to spot a liar. There are some really interesting TED Talks
Oh,
where CIA analysts will teach you how to spot a lie, and
can you
uh,
describe some of the techniques?
some of them are okay. So duping delight. When somebody tells you a whopper, um, you might catch them smiling a little bit,
Uh-huh.
like a
Yeah. Hmm.
little glimpse of a thing where they shouldn't be smiling,
Right.
but they are. Or you can you can have body language when they said, if he goes, I'm open to any investigation, but then they're shaking their head no.
Hmm.
I'm open to any investigation. They're not open at all to it. They don't
Right.
want to investigate that.
Right.
And to a larger extent, it almost there really did seem to be like a pall of evil over the whole thing, that I I just was intrigued about.
Okay,
And
so on the topic of evil, did you have like a conception, a clear conception of good and evil before 2020? Or was it
um,
abstract?
I I tended to have more of a black and white clarity on good and evil.
Hmm.
Um, it wasn't always, what I think people would consider traditional good and evil, like what your religious leaders would call good and evil necessarily. I think both sides can get sucked into that spirit of religion,
Hmm.
and you have to be cautious, especially when people get overly judgmental.
Yeah.
Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, kind of
I
thing.
know. I know.
And and the fact that you have so many denominations, all that believe they're equally correct.
Hmm.
Well, somebody's not.
Right,
A lot
right.
of if only one group is absolutely perfect, then nothing else is perfect. In which case, there's a huge mess ahead of us. So my feeling on that is, I try not to get too lost in the woods, and I just try to think about what is more spiritually right.
Yeah.
Mutilating kids, I think, is wrong. You know, uh, and I think a lot of what was being done in our hospitals was
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest scare earliest on was when Zero Hedge was censored on Twitter.
That, that's interesting. And do you remember when that happened?
I think it was January
January.
of
Wow.
2020.
Because the first censorship I saw was like, it was probably April. So you really saw it early.
Well, that's what made me panic about COVID.
Yeah.
When was Zero Hedge? I'm gonna
You're gonna look it up.
censored on
Yeah.
Twitter. We'll just find out real quick.
Do you remember what the topic was they were censored
It was
for?
about they were suspended in from Twitter in February of 2020 after publishing an article questioning the origins of the coronavirus and suggesting a possible link to the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Wow, that is amazing. I didn't know that that happened so early.
Yeah. And the fact that there was a cover up, the fact that they didn't want to acknowledge that the Institute
Yeah.
might have been associated with it, um, was a real concern to me, because you only do that if you believe that what will follow is going to be really bad.
Right.
If it wasn't going to be bad, why cover it up?
Right.
No
So
one would care.
so initially it sounds like you were concerned that the sickness would be much more dramatic than it was. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we were being told it was a cyanide breeze, essentially.
Really? What does
You
that
know,
mean?
well, that's kind of how I describe it. Is it was that we were going to have what 3% or higher mortality
Hmm.
rates,
Hmm.
um, which is horrible
Yeah.
for anything really, and that was my concern.
Right.
And we've learned through emails and whatever else, Fauci and those guys were desperately trying to cover and conceal their relationship with the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Right.
National Cancer Institute was connected to them. I mean, who knew that this little place, or this little, not that little, it's actually pretty populated, but that this small facility was going to be a cornerstone of our pandemic and research. And what we were funding was bad. And so, anyway, the censorship really set me off.
Yeah.
When you start denying our First Amendment, um, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's really strange happening. And that was my earliest trigger. You
I think
know,
that's interesting because my earliest trigger was censorship too, but it was later than yours. And then what I'm curious about is like, did you encounter people who somehow were in denial that censorship was happening or found it acceptable?
well, in California, um, you're gonna have you're gonna. I mean, there's emotional transference. I talk about it in the film where you associate a person or an idea with a topic, and so now every time you address a topic, if people hate the person or the
Yeah.
idea, the topic becomes bound to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very clear to me early on that they were playing politics with the pandemic. The news media was. I mean, CNN had Anderson Cooper just openly mocking a sitting president in the middle of a global catastrophe,
Mm-hmm.
uh, over a very simple medication. Trump said, "Oh, maybe we could try a disinfectant." They suddenly run out and say he's trying to get people to drink bleach. Which, by the way, there is something called chlorine dioxide that some people do drink and seem to find
Really?
benefits from it. Chlorine dioxide is used in all our water supply systems,
Oh.
or most of them,
Uh-huh.
a significant number. Let me just say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's used to purify water. It is a bleach, but it's good for wound care and things like that.
Uh-huh.
But there's this huge system of attack on that medication. Anyway, that was all sort of part of what was happening. They were positioning Trump as bad medicine, and he talked about hydroxychloroquine, and then suddenly every news outlet in the world is attacking it.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me to start investigating the news outlets, ownership of media. It got me to start investigating who's funding these little newspaper style outlets across the country.
Yeah.
And what you find is that we have been sort of we've had all these highly, I would say, very far left organizations funded by NGOs of questionable origin, who maybe were even getting money from USAID, and they were all being sort of used as attack dogs
Mm-hmm.
for political purpose under the guise of medical reporting.
Right.
So all of that, kind of put me in a very strange place. It doesn't mean I was 100% confident in how Trump was handling COVID at the beginning, but there was something, it was obvious to me something else was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was an election year. We're learning now that the European Union was involved, that United Kingdom was helping, foster censorship. And that tracked with a lot of what I found over the last 2 or 3 years with a few of my other friends like Nicole Siratek and Julia, the American Frontline Nurses. They got reports of Facebook groups that were targeting doctors
Mm-hmm.
and vaccine injury victims. Anyone that spoke out against the narrative, these private Facebook groups would target them and go after their medical licenses.
This is like shots heard. Is that one
Yeah.
of those? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Shots Heard was a group funded or created by a guy named Todd Wolin, who's a pediatrician in Pennsylvania, after he was attacked by supporters of Dr. Sherry Tenpenny when he was promoting vaccines in 2017. He created the Facebook group to kind of create a digital cavalry to help when he gets attacked. It got picked up and taken over by a group called Public Good Projects, which is a nonprofit that is highly liberal. I'm saying they're highly liberal because they are all liberal. The groups were all liberal. The people, there were no conservative Christians in these groups.
Right.
They were all super liberal. And if I found one, I wouldn't say that, but I never found one. So what you have are now people highly political under the umbrella of science, attacking anyone that went against the narrative. And when I say political, also I mean to say that one of the staffers that worked for Public Good Projects was Amy Klobuchar's one of her campaign employees. So it was there was a strange connection there. You had Mark Zuckerberg that year pouring $400 million to remove Trump, essentially. And Public Good Projects received $800,000 from Bio, the pharmaceutical lobbyist, which includes Gilead, Pfizer, all the big pharmaceutical companies. There's a lot of dark money that's been flowing around and influencing our social media and news media, and those investigations have been kind of what is what Broken Truth is about.
Right.
I still now what happens is I just get reached out to by people who have these crazy stories they want to tell, because I'm willing to listen to them.
Right.
It doesn't mean I believe everything everybody says, and when you're in a ragtag group of miscreants and rabble rousers, there's a lot of infighting in this sort of medical freedom movement. And so even today, I got people fighting online that I'm trying to okay, everybody, let's just calm down. We're on the same team.
Well, I mean, there's a long history of infiltration of social movements.
Exactly.
By people who want to rabble rouse intentionally for a different purpose.
Yeah, and you have to recognize that social media is a great connector in many ways, but it is also an avenue for manipulation.
How do you try to vet people if you're trying to figure out where they're actually coming from?
So that's where kind of the spiritual part of this comes in for me. I sort of treat things like they're either tests or training on a spiritual level. And if I feel like if God's going to send someone to me, I should, there's a purpose.
Right.
And I don't always know what it is, but I just sort of accept it and roll with it.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great way to look at it. Because again, love thy enemies.
I've encountered some people who some people say are, controlled opposition or chaos agents or whatever. Very, very few. But even in that environment where these people are sort of decimating movements from within, I find that good comes from that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Sometimes you get negative triggers to create a positive result. Two negatives can actually make a positive number. So even when you have the negative, I mean, look, if I've got CIA agents on me, my opinion is now they're my CIA agents. So, I know my motives and my intentions are generally pretty good. So I just kind of accept it. All right, if they want to watch, you're on my team.
Right. That's the right attitude. And then also I think it's a very good test to be like, okay, if someone is acting in a chaotic way, well, either they're a chaotic person, they could be a chaos agent, but that, as you say, is like a test for how do I react.
And there are instances where I'll need to step back and sort of provide distance because, frankly, I don't have that much time. I'm also a dad.
Right.
And, I can only handle so much of that. And I also think a lot of this is about maintaining a positive outlook.
Yeah.
Even when it is sometimes really hard to do.
Right.
I still hold out for the people that are even now promoting the vaccines and things like that. It's like, okay, somebody's got to be last in line to heaven. So you just get there a little later than the rest of us. That's all good.
Yeah.
But even in that situation, like you have right now, there are about a handful of medical doctors and people on X who X seems to be promoting and highlighting, and they antagonize the anti-vaxxers, which but we had all our vaccines up until 2020.
Right.
If anything, the lackluster medical response to COVID is what motivated me to be more hesitant to willfully allow them to inject whatever they wanted. I mean, I thought your book had a really good take on it. Apophenia Gold.
Yeah.
where that, it made people depressed.
Yeah.
And I've had
Which
people come to me with that.
and I've seen people who that happened to. I mean, I didn't actually know that many people who got the shots, but those who did, I could see something
Yeah.
changed a little for them. Yeah.
I mean, I had one good friend tell me how depressed he was after he got it. And I think there's just something about it
Yeah.
that affected me. And I've had doctors who were very pro
Mhm.
shots come to me with spiritual confusion because their lives are different. They're unhealthy now, and I think maybe again this shot is a big negative for the most part, but maybe the resulting outcome is going to be positive
Yeah.
because a lot of us are now far more skeptical of the heroes in lab coats
Mhm.
than we used to be, and that's a
Right.
that's a good outcome.
Yeah, I mean, prior to 2020, I was skeptical of the medical system, but I still, I think in 2017 got a tetanus shot because we were gonna do a renovation, and at that point in time, I had no idea what could be in that. Did I lose you? Are you still there?
It's really unfair because a society is built on trust,
Yeah.
and we've trusted our doctors to have done the homework. We
Mhm.
trusted the systems of education to provide the right knowledge to the doctors so that they made
Mhm.
the proper decisions. Um, it really is like 2020 heralded the perfect storm of all the worst outcomes from a corrupted education system, a corrupted healthcare system, a corrupted pharmaceutical system, where at every level, the average patient is the least important thing,
Yeah.
and it's a real shame. But maybe we're waking up, and maybe we'll have better outcomes. I think we have to have some sort of new healthcare system. Just it needs maybe nothing can really be salvaged here because the hospitals are very corrupt. The medical boards are corrupt. The
Mhm.
pharmaceutical boards are corrupt. The pharmaceutical schools are corrupt. The medical
Right.
schools are corrupt. I mean, maybe DEI was a poison pill that exposed all of it.
Right.
Um,
Right. Because it took a long time to happen. It took a full generation to happen, if not 2.
since this happened, I think a lot of us have gotten education into what happened in 1911 when J.D. Rockefeller
Yeah.
started or maybe it was 1930. At some
Started
point around about 100 years ago,
Yeah.
the medical system got modernized.
Mhm.
And in the process of doing that, they wanted to throw out anything holistic. You started getting your natural remedies mocked and pushed out. I mean, even in the movie Broken Epidemic of Fraud, I talk
Yeah.
about how doctors had an alternative to cinchona during the Civil War, which was bark from a dogwood tree. But they
Huh.
didn't want to use it because there hadn't been enough clinical trials, and they didn't want to be considered homeopaths. This was in the 1860s. And at the time, it's a real brief background, is that
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln had created a northern blockade on the southern states to prevent access to cinchona bark
Wow.
and quinine.
Yeah.
So that was almost like biological warfare because it affected men and women, free, slave, young, old, all at the same time. But the
Mhm.
goal, obviously, is to keep Southern troops sick with malaria.
Wow. Interesting.
A sick soldier can't fight
Yeah,
or
yeah.
can't fight well, slows down troops and consumes extra resources.
Right.
Um, but even then, just malaria translates to bad air.
Oh, really?
So it's not like they had PCR tests.
Right.
It's not like we have, like, don't assume PCR tests were even accurate. We learned that there were a lot of false positives based on the way
Yeah.
they were working. So when a doctor would make a diagnosis in the 1860s, it was a guess. You could have
Mhm.
probably one of 50 different respiratory illnesses, and they just
Right.
called it malaria
Oh, that's
because it
interesting.
was bad air.
Yeah.
So we the history of medicine is a lot fuzzier than uh, I think your average pediatrician would have you believe.
Mhm.
And I think we've all learned now that the doctors were not educated on vaccine injuries. It is almost like an entire like an education system based on narcissism
Mhm.
that doesn't want to address its own failings in history.
Right. Yeah, I watched your episode this past week with the two people who are looking at academic bias,
Mm. Yeah.
which it's I mean, as we've all known for decades, like it leans right. And I had always kind of thought that probably, sorry, it leans left. Probably the reason it leans left is because people want to hire people who think like them.
Right.
But, it also, the two people who you were speaking with really brought out this idea that, and people who lean right don't want to be spending their career in a place of discomfort,
Right.
which I hadn't really thought about it from that point of view.
I wouldn't want to be around that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't seek out people that are willfully blind anymore.
Right.
I interviewed Jessica Rose a couple of weeks ago, and um, we kind of came to that point. Like, you want to avoid um, uncomfortable situations, and staying away from people that are blindly captured is not fun for me. To this point, like initially, I used to try to run headfirst into the wall and try to convince people uh, of things that I had found, or oh,
Yeah.
here's this study, here's this research, here's all this, and now I realize like it's pointless.
Right.
Some people just won't hear you,
Right.
and I think the best you can do is dangle a little bait that intrigues a person who's already maybe got some questions in the back of their mind,
Yeah.
that has seen everything that you and I saw. Maybe they secretly Google stuff when no one's watching. Which, by the way, don't do that because Google's going to lie to you.
I
Um,
know.
but
Yeah.
you just got to put a little bait out there,
Right.
and maybe, just maybe, you'll get a few who will grab it, and you can pull them out. And that, my friend, is how you become a fisher of men. Right?
That's a good point.
Isn't that
Yeah.
what they say?
Yeah.
And I do think of it like maybe what you're doing is we're standing on the banks of a
Mhm.
river about to go over a waterfall, and the river is everyone that we know,
Yeah.
everyone in this world. They're all going over the waterfall. The best we can do is fish some of them out, and even then it
Yeah.
doesn't work. And I've experienced things where I've told people about too much of the spiritual stuff that I've experienced, and they lose it. They
Really?
they become untethered, um, because it is when you start seeing the world almost like a matrix.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, in the Matrix, they say we don't like to pull a mind once it's reached a certain age because the mind just can't handle it.
Oh,
Um,
I had forgotten
and I
that.
can say that for me, certainly, it was um, very difficult to process what I was experiencing because I always found comfort in truth and science and
Mhm.
honesty.
Right.
And so to see that we were being lied to, that people were doing things that were going to result in mass deaths
Mhm.
on purpose,
Mhm.
and when confronted with that fact, they would laugh. I mean, how many times did Fauci laugh on camera? You
You know,
know,
I have never had TV at home, so I've actually watched very little of that stuff, and I know
good
there
for
are
you.
clip segments that I could go watch, but, um, I wanna pause because I wanna try to fix our internet connection. because the internet was acting a little weird, and we were joking about why, but
Totally not anything with intelligence
probably
agencies.
likely not, but yes. Um,
Totally not. Nothing like
so
that.
that was a question that I wanted to ask you and that I ask myself a lot is, yeah, if you see that you might feel like you're understanding things better than other people, do you have an obligation to try to explain it to them? And yet, I personally, I can't stand the idea of proselytizing. I was brought up in
Right.
a very reserved, northern New England culture, and you just don't do that. So I'm curious how you understand obligations such as
So I can tell you that running headfirst and trying to convince
yeah,
people of things did not work
right.
at all. In fact, it was the opposite effect. And I was almost tortured by like good friends of mine. They almost seemed like they enjoyed it,
Oh.
watching me get frustrated.
Oh. Uh-huh.
And that is sort of the dark side of the spiritual
Yeah.
thing, right? Like they loosh, I think it's called looshing,
Yeah.
where you get someone sucks your spiritual
Yeah.
energy by torturing
Mhm.
you. Um, so you have to accept that people are on their own
Mhm.
journey. I do
Yeah.
anyway. But at the same time, there's a verse called Ezekiel 33 about the watchers, and basically the gist of it is, you're supposed to tell, if you see a threat, you're supposed to tell the city leaders, and if they react appropriately, you've done your job. And if they ignore you, at least their blood's not on your hands. But if you see something and you don't say anything,
Right.
then their blood is on your hands if something happens to them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, obviously, I have not been appointed as a watcher yet. I've self-appointed. Um, but to that end, like I can only put my information out
Right.
there and let serendipity do the work for me, because there's clearly something still controlling us on social
Mhm.
media. I can't decide if it's algorithmic or technology, or if maybe it's a spiritual
Mhm.
predestined limitation kind
Mhm.
of thing. Whatever it is, the good news is, and I get this question a lot: do you feel vindicated, especially with everything happening right now in HHS and you know Trump and Bobby Kennedy teaming up and all that? And I don't really.
Mm.
If anything, it's bittersweet,
Right.
right? Because you tried to warn people, and I personally tried to warn family members and whatnot, and they got
Mhm.
shots. Some of them got cancer and died. And,
Yeah.
that's a really hard thing to watch. So no, there's really no vindication for me
Mhm.
personally. Um, if anything, I'm just sort of hopeful, like, okay, well, maybe what's really happened now is that better voices have gotten the message, and they're now carrying the flag and doing what they need to do. So I can go back to making cat videos and, oh, I'm sorry, award-winning cat videos. I did that actually. And, having
Yeah.
fun. I mean, I was a comedy guy before all this
Really?
crazy crap. Yeah, I worked with ABC comedy promos and things like that.
My
So,
goodness.
I could always have fun and
Yeah.
goof off. So it was very confusing for all my friends and family
Yeah.
when I suddenly got really passionate and started fighting this great evil thing
Mhm.
that we're dealing with. Um, but I don't know, I couldn't help it. Like for me, it was clear that we were in a landscape as a society where individual freedoms were now at
Yeah.
risk. And I have children.
Mhm.
So how am I supposed to sit back and let my kids get eaten alive just for a few creature comforts
Right.
today? Um, I could do it.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure that we give the next generation a fighting
Yeah.
chance, and also instill in them the desire to give their next generation a fighting
Yeah.
chance. Their kids need. I can't even imagine what our great grandkids are going to be dealing with if we're dealing with this
Right.
now, where every move you make is
I know.
tracked, every thought that you
Yeah.
have, every like that you put on
Yeah.
Facebook, every snarky comment you write when you're using an anonymous account. This is all being
Mhm.
observed, It's all being docketed and documented and being used to craft a digital profile of you.
Right. Yeah. So for a
Um,
long time, I was like, I'm not going to use the internet. So for, 4 years or so, maybe 5 years.
mhm,
And I used it as little as possible, just email, no social media. Once I really understood how all of these trackings were coming into play.
yeah,
And then I kind of came to the conclusion, well, that's not like avoiding it's not really the best solution either.
right.
And I have some new younger Gen Z friends who are super like hyper aware of all this stuff and haven't been essentially brainwashed by the technology. So I'm hopeful, just like with that younger
Yeah.
generation, that people are being born who have the strength to deal with the technology. But it does seem like, yeah, it's just getting harder and harder.
Some people I know at a group called Sound Investigations and did an undercover kind of camera recording of a CIA guy, I think in San Diego,
Hmm.
and he was talking about how they could trigger people into doing certain things. He goes, once we've got you on our radar, we know everything about you. We know what
Yeah.
upsets you, what you like, and we know, sometimes we just give you a little push, a little
Wow.
nudge to get you to do something crazy, and then we can get you in jail.
And so, like, the trigger being showing a certain type of meme that's particularly hard for that person to see?
Maybe it's a meme, maybe it's a fake article,
Uh-huh.
maybe it's a biased article, maybe it's a who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe it's bombarding a kid in Pennsylvania nonstop with unflattering things about Donald
Mhm.
Trump,
Right, right.
and then gun range ads.
Right.
Who's to say how this works? But I think we as a society need to be very conscious of how we can get
Mhm.
triggered.
Yeah.
What makes you mad? I mean, look, what makes me mad? I already told you. Like, I don't like it when you mutilate kids.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised a little bit that I have to even say
Yeah.
that in this day and
Yeah.
age. And yet we do.
Right.
So, but what is one person's trigger? Um, and what is the outcome of that triggering? Like for me, you're not going to get me to run and become a mass shooter.
Mhm.
That just ain't my style.
Right.
But I might make a video that opens some eyes.
Mhm. Yeah, and the
So
other thing about, I encountered this just a couple weeks ago. I was talking to someone who's very politically informed, and I was describing the late term abortion laws in Maine, and he didn't know that that was what the law
right,
was. And so that's the
right,
other political, let's say, political
ignorance.
tunnel that's happening, information tunnel. And it's so, you know, I could see he was skeptical that I knew what I was talking about, and I did. And that kind of thing. So, you call it mutilating kids. When someone has never heard that word before because they're in a different information tunnel, they're not even going to make that, connection. And then they're going to be skeptical.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, if you make the truth so preposterous that
Mhm.
nobody believes it, you win.
Right. Right.
And unfortunately, the truth is so preposterous on so many different fronts
Yeah.
that people just can't believe it. And look, we live in a society that is really hard to navigate these days. I mean, if you move, you've got to register car
Mhm.
tags and titles and driver's
Yeah.
licenses, and if you live somewhere, you've got to pay HOA bills, make sure you obey the HOA
Right.
rules. Then you got the city rules and you got the county rules. You're constantly bombarded with taxes and fees and fines, and just navigating day to day. Oh, by the way, you also have a job to do, and you've got to raise your kids, and then you've got to go to PTO meetings or PTA
Right.
meetings or whatever. You've got all these different things, taking the most valuable commodity that you and I have, which is
Yeah.
time. How are you supposed to become an expert in mRNA
Right.
technology enough to make an informed decision?
Right. And
Oh no, your doctor's going to tell you about
yeah,
it. And when you ask the doctor to show you the pamphlet, it's
right,
blank.
right.
I mean, on some level, I feel like we've been dealing with like the world's most brutal IQ test.
Except, I mean, I've talked about this a lot. It's clearly not correlated with like actual IQ because it's correlated with something else, which is how much time a
Yeah,
person has spent in an educational institution.
yeah.
And
They develop
yeah,
an intellectual
yeah.
bias.
And also because, you're signing up for it, you're paying for it, you're submitting yourself to it. Like that's
Yeah.
opting in.
Well, we've trained people in medicine to think of the body like an iPhone,
Yeah.
right? And their biggest hope is that they can run an operating system upgrade every
Mhm.
year through a
Right.
shot. But we just don't work that
Yeah.
way. And it's a stupid correlation to draw between, I'm sorry, my phone is pretty cool, but it's still pretty
Right.
dumb. Uh,
And I think we also are really prone to thinking of our mind, soul, and spirit and using simulation terms from like computer technology because we don't have any better terms. And that kind of thing is like, gosh, I'd rather go back to the religious terms than talk about, you know, myself and
yeah,
using the analogs of technology
right.
terms.
Yeah, we're in a interesting
Mm,
place in human history, and I think, like I was saying earlier, if you can maintain a positive outlook, um, it does seem to be that we almost have some sort of shared influence on that.
yeah.
I don't know if some people believe in manifestation and things like that. Um, whatever your idea is I believe your thoughts can shape the
Oh,
world.
totally. And they definitely shape your own reality. So,
Yeah, some people have really bad
yeah.
thoughts. Bill Gates seems to have a lot of really bad thoughts.
What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years? Do you like to make predictions?
Um, oh well, I get in trouble when I do that because they come true. um, there are a couple of different
Hmm.
outcomes, and I think a lot of what we're experiencing right now is uh, the powers that be are trying to prepare the world to accept what you and I know
Right.
already. When the majority accepts the fact that they've been poisoned
Hmm.
and that their children and their loved ones have been poisoned and that the doctors were all blind to it, willfully maybe in some
Hmm.
instances, that there was a money component. I mean, I go around the country and interview families who lost
Oh,
kids to the
God.
shots, and there are very few things that you can do worse to a person than
Yeah.
that.
Right.
And they've created some blood enemies.
Hmm.
I would, I, I honestly don't. I don't want to think too hard about where that could lead because
Yeah.
there could be some really bad outcomes. I also know that if justice is denied, that is a crime in and of
Right.
itself. And we still have issues with our judiciary where we have really bad judges doing really bad things. And I don't know where that leads either.
There's
It,
almost no way out of that other
well,
than a generation to pass.
there's a whole world here that has dealt with that with revolutions,
Right.
and they are typically not good
Right.
um, in the short
I think
term.
it's an obligation upon us to try to always imagine a peaceful solution.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's why I do
Yeah.
this, right? Because I'm trying to head
Yeah.
off. Like if you think I'm the stick, trust me, I'm the carrot. Um, I'm trying to head that
Yeah.
off I'm trying to expose this stuff and bring enough maybe shame or critical thought onto the judiciary, the DOJ, the agencies, and then also have people recognize that there's a lot of foreign influence that's doing
Right.
a lot of this really bad stuff. And that comes with money that is given to candidates that really shouldn't. Like, some of these candidates, I can't believe were elected.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So then there's the other side of this, which is our electorate is not very bright sometimes.
Right. But there's also not a lot of people who are willing to run who are really good.
Well, because look at the
Right. It's
process.
terrible.
I don't want to
Exactly.
run. That seems like a nightmare.
But this is the thing
Do
that,
you think I want to hear all these people
yeah,
complain?
someone pointed this out to me recently. If you move to, say, 80% red district in Texas and you're a reasonable person, you can basically get elected into federal office. And yet it requires uprooting your entire life.
Right.
But there are districts in this country where you can then be in the House of Representatives and putting,
Right.
At least you would add one more voice. But I'm not offering to do it.
No, it seems pretty unpleasant to me.
Yeah, it is.
And once you get in there, I always thought of the presidency as a prison.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can essentially speak
Right.
and do executive orders, and then try to be a power broker. Maybe occasionally you can do things like tariffs or whatever, but it's really a figurehead type role.
Yeah. And there's a lot of law there.
And and looking at Congress and the Senate, we should have had term limits a long time ago.
Term limits would have solved most of this, I think. And also the inability to make money from legislation that you write.
Right. Campaign finance reform, when we started letting corporations make donations, the fact that, O'Keefe has exposed a lot of this Act Blue, micro donations, which nobody makes a $2 donation every week. You know what I mean? But yet they have billions of that, or multi-millions. Right. There's something wrong there. There's something wrong with the whole system, and it's almost like every enforcement system that we have is so overwhelmed that they just went into tilt mode, right? And they just don't work at all,
right?
Because the whole country is just filled up with fraud. I mean, it really is an epidemic of fraud in so many different ways, and that was I've experienced it, with purchasing property. Mortgage agents want you to, or mortgage brokers try to get you to lie about your income so you can get a better loan or a better rate or whatever. And look at the result of that. Lisa Cook in the
I don't know who that is.
She's in the Federal Reserve. She bought like 2 houses within 2 weeks and said both were primary residence. I think that's how it worked.
That's
and when she was busted for it, there's no prosecution for it. The FBI doesn't even do it. So why have the rules?
Right.
Why have the rules that say you have to have a primary thing and you can claim homestead exemptions? Why do it? Why are there rules for you and me, but not for them? I mean, she's still on the Federal Reserve. She did those loans because she got good rates in 2021. And then she supported rate increases for the next 3 years once she got her property. That's not fair. Like, people are sick of that. Right. And maybe the best revolution we could have would be for all 50 states to secede the union and just ditch Washington, D.C., leave it with all the debt.
That's an interesting...
Form a new country. Maybe put it in the heartland of maybe put it right in like Oklahoma.
Did you come up with this?
Right in the middle.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Oklahoma, like right around Broken Arrow, is like the dead center of the United States. Maybe that's actually a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I don't know how you'd get the states to work together because So I'm in New Hampshire right now, and compared to the other New England states, it's really like low tax.
Yes.
But I've gone to some town meetings to understand how things work, and they're very much upset, relying on federal funding.
Mm.
And so the way these our system has been built is the federal funding has infiltrated down to the municipal
Everything.
level, and it comes through the states, but it's there. And so people who are working in a local area, local politics, still are relying on that federal money. And I don't know how to untangle that
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, they're drunk with
Yeah.
it. I've seen very poor areas in this country that have not had a population growth
Mhm.
in the last 30 years. Nothing major. It's pretty much consistent. And they have brand new school after brand new
Yeah.
school after brand new
Yeah.
school, bigger than some universities.
Mhm.
And then suddenly they go into default because they can't pay their bills. Who's making these decisions?
Right.
Uh, and they're getting money from the feds and from their states. And if a community can't support itself, and it becomes addicted to that, rejecting that money in the future becomes very difficult.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's the same thing that's happened to all the medical doctors.
Right.
They were held down, forced into Obamacare and EMRs and
Mhm.
all this other stuff. And the EMR now takes away from your doctor's time to be with you.
Right.
They're not looking at you, they're looking at the computer to punch in stuff so they can not stay there till 11 o'clock at night doing paperwork.
Right.
And then they get money from the pharmaceutical companies to vaccinate a certain percentage of their patients. They get to go on trips. They have all these very attractive female, probably some attractive males too, but very attractive female drug reps come by. And I think one of the biggest SEC whistleblower filings ever was they were sending former strippers in as drug reps.
I didn't know that.
I gotta look up. Let me just check that. SEC whistleblower pharma stripper.
You finding it?
There was Behave More Sexually, Mother Jones, 2018. How Big Pharma used strippers, guns, and cash to push opioids.
Oh God. It's just like
When did heroin
yeah.
need hookers?
Right. I thought it was addictive anyway.
It pretty much sold itself.
Okay, so um now that you made Epidemic of Fraud, are you making any more documentaries, like big ones?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really like the narrative scripted space. Documentaries are painful. They're painful to make. They're painful to watch.
Really?
Well, I mean, like if you're gonna watch a documentary, unless it's just of babies or something, it's pretty much what you're in for, which is going to be frustration, shock, anger. You're gonna throw things at the TV.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're watching it to be frustrated. I see what you're saying.
It's like inviting someone into your home and say, "Piss me off as hard as you
Yeah,
can."
yeah.
I
Okay, so are you going to go into
I don't want to do
the
that.
narrative scripted space?
I do think there are great ways to tell these stories through, movies, TV shows, Netflix kind of series. I think there's a lot of real opportunity there. Hollywood is on the ropes. Other states are sort of stepping in now to fill the void left by what California's done to its production community.
Do you think there's
there's
financing appetite to actually put together like proper television?
Well, you can see like Angel
Yeah.
Studios.
Hmm.
They're trying to up their game. They've made some good stuff. You can see you know other places are trying,
Hmm.
and usually you just have to have two or three hits,
Right.
and the market steps in and says, hey, we want more of this. Let's supply the need.
Right.
For example, I talk about this a lot. Top Gun,
Yeah.
Maverick,
We we watched Top
really
Gun
brought people.
last week.
Yeah, it brought people back to the
Yeah.
movies, and that was so important. What's interesting to me, and it sort of indicates that you still have a captured system, is that you don't have a lot more movies like that coming out.
Right.
Why not? Universal, I think, greenlit that movie back in the around 2018 or so,
Hmm.
because they held it after COVID until people were finally going to the movies again.
Oh.
Um, but I feel like Universal, probably the people there don't want to make it. They don't want to make anything else like it because they're so, unfortunately, they're all very woke
Right.
at these big things. So we need more conservative minds to run Hollywood
Or
studios.
even just not woke. I mean, like
Right, not
we've
woke.
rewatched.
But I guess when I say
Yeah.
conservative, I just mean like, do you mutilate kids?
Right. No.
That's sort of my answer
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a weird defining line.
Right. Right.
But we just need more balanced ideas to come out of these places.
Hmm.
I think unifying concepts, like it's really hard to be mad at Maverick. They didn't even really identify what country they were
I know.
attacking, and then they cover their
Yeah.
faces in like the Ray-Ban
Right.
helmets, so you, you can make sure so you have no one to be angry at, no
Right.
disenfranchised country to claim victim status with.
Right.
It's funny how they navigated around that.
Right.
So I don't know. I think there is some space for good scripted narratives. I mean, I think if you saw a documentary about a person who's vaccine injured or someone whose kid was vaccine injured, you're not going to have the same response as you would if you saw it told in a
Hmm.
Hollywood crafted narrative film.
Right.
Um, that's when you get into the Aaron
Hmm.
Brockovich's Dark Waters with Mark Ruffalo, or
Oh yeah.
that sort of empowerment movie. Like, those were great
Yeah.
movies, and they got justice.
Yeah.
That's what people are desperate for.
Yeah.
Give me $200 million. I'll make like three amazing movies.
Do you write scripts?
Um, I have a couple of script concepts, yeah.
Cool. That's a great
So
next project.
I think it would be way more fun than you know another documentary
Right.
where you have to see my face.
Right. Well,
I
you
mean,
did a great job with
there's
that.
stuff that out there that I can
Yeah.
do. I've talked to some people about maybe something for chlorine dioxide to
Hmm.
sort of talk about its history. People did like the historical parts of epidemic of fraud,
Mm.
so
Right.
maybe I can kind of dip into that
Yeah. But I mean, like
a little
something
more.
like the Aaron Brockovich story, of course, all of it hangs on getting that like actor or actress who's just so phenomenal and
Well, you've got Chris Pratt has a limited plate,
uh-huh.
but he's a pretty great actor, and he's done some stuff on like Terminal List. So he's definitely Terminal List was about, I think, a vaccine that
Oh,
backfired, and
really?
the military killed
Oh,
uh, a bunch of troops who were all developing terminal brain tumors from this vaccine they got.
I never saw that or heard of it.
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
Amazon. It's pretty good.
I'm writing it down.
There's a Lone Wolf, which is a new season, I think, that they just did, but the first season was focused on Chris Pratt's
Huh.
story. Um, yeah, it's a one of my friends was a producer on that. So there's potential.
Yeah.
We just gotta connect,
Mm-hmm.
and I think these people at Hollywood or Netflix or Warner Brothers or whatever, they need to accept the new world that we live in, which is truth is coming out. So do you want to be
Do you want to?
the one exposed, or do you want to be the one doing the exposing.
Right. You want to manage the narrative some more?
Yeah, I'd rather be the one doing the exposing
Right.
personally,
Right.
because it doesn't work out great for the exposed.
Okay, so one more question. One of the things that I think about, which I think we all think about, is like one of the good things that's come out of the past 5 years is so many more people know. Then, the Patriot Act happened a long time ago.
Yeah,
And granted, it was basically pre-internet, so it was hard to read stuff online or find information online back then. But I know there was internet in 2001, but it wasn't like now.
right.
And maybe maybe what happened during COVID actually has been this blessing, like where
Yep,
we all are now much more informed, or at least some
I
good
agree.
percentage of us are.
Yeah, I think it long term was probably the best thing that could happen to us,
Mhm.
because we were marching headfirst into oblivion.
Right, right.
But it's almost like we sprung the trap early with it. Maybe there's definitely something going on there. Secret societies and all kinds of people pulling strings across the planet.
Yeah,
I think we've all figured that out a little bit
yeah.
now, more than we knew before. We knew it, but we didn't know it.
Right.
We hadn't really seen it,
It was
or didn't know that we'd seen
so
it.
hard to believe. Like, who would have believed it?
It still is
It still
crazy.
is hard to
Like
believe.
I wake up some days and I'm like, is this real?
Right, right.
Like I can't believe I live in this
Yeah.
world, but we do. So we got to make it a good one.
And on that note, Merry Christmas. Do you have good plans?
You too, buddy. I think I might go down to the
Oh,
beach,
nice.
take a little time off and
Yeah,
just recharge.
yeah. We try to take the 12 days off, and it never really
Oh wow.
happens, but that's my goal every year.
Are you gonna write?
Yeah, I do write. I mean, I do that anyway, but to like really not use the computer that much. That would be my goal.
Yeah. Are you working on your second book?
Yeah, I'm working on, so the second is in like a very near complete stage, and I'm
Oh,
actually writing the third right now. So that's what I will write.
sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
And thank you so much for being here with me. Let me see.
You too.
I and maybe we can talk again sometime.
Sounds good.
Uh, I see on your name the places to find you,
Oh
but
yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to mention?
At this point, I think if you go to brokentruth.tv or epidemicofraud.com, that's a good
Good.
good place to start. And then you can also follow me on Twitter at brokentruth TV.
Yes. Awesome.